The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. New York Met Baseball, past, present, and future. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and the two hosts are here, Marty Rose and Robert Cole. Marty, Robert, how are you?
Very good, Ralph.
Doing good, Ralph.
Yeah, glad to hear that. Robert, you're in Port St. Lucie this week. I haven't been there for almost, I'd say 15 years at least. How has that city changed? Spring training, home of the New York Mets, and it's grown from what I understand. It's not just a little a baseball field with a few stores around it.
Oh, no, it's a little bit like Miami now.
Wow.
There's restaurants and department stores and shopping centers all over the place.
Wow, indeed. It was so hickish. I think Skip Lockwood has joined us. Welcome
Hello.
back, Joe Skip. How are you, sir?
I am excellent. Excellent. How are you?
Good.
Ralph?
Marty Rose is here. You've met him on the air. You haven't met our other co-host, who is Robert Cole. Robert Cole, Skip Lockwood.
How you doing, Skip?
Pardon me?
I said, how are you tonight, Robert? Can you guys hear me okay?
You're speak a little louder into the phone.
Okay, I've got a cell phone tonight. I apologize.
Okay, no problem whatsoever. Skip, I asked you if you wouldn't come back and talk about two of your former teammates, Rusty Staub and Ed Kranepool. They are both hurting right now, ironically, both having kidney problems. And Skip, your memory of those two guys.
You know, my memory is very clear on both Kranepool and Staub. They were great teammates when I was with the Mets. Kranepool was a local guy, and he had great influence, in New York. Everybody came to see him. It was sort of an open clubhouse, the way Joe Torre ran the clubhouse. Reporters could come in, friends could come in, kids could come in. So we had a lot of people that were in to see him because he knew everybody in town. Kranepool didn't start for the Mets. He was our pinch hitter. When Joe Torre took over, he told Eddie that he said, I'm not going to start you, but what I am going to do is I'm going to guarantee that you're going to hit in a situation where you can win a game, drive in a run, in a crucial situation. And that was the bargain that they had. Eddie started a few games, but boy, he came in pinch hitting roles when we had to have a run from second base or the tying run. He was the guy that Joe Torre would go to night after night after night.
He really came into his own in that role because he was kind of mediocre up until that part of his career.
What he liked about that is he liked the role. He liked the fact that he was going to get a chance, every single night, like being the closer in the Mets bullpen, like I was. Every night he was going to get an important swing, and for him, it meant that because sometimes you could start a game and you'd make it out in the third inning that was inconsequential to the outcome. But it just seemed like every night when we needed to have a run, Eddie Kranepool had a bat in his hand.
That is a very clear memory indeed. How about Rusty Staub? as a teammate.
Well, I just want to tell one more story about Kranepool, if I can.
Sure.
We had a kangaroo court here in the Mets clubhouse. Most clubs that I played for had an informal or formal kangaroo court, and Eddie was the judge. And I don't know whether he wore the wig or whether Eddie Milner wore the wig, but Kranepool was a tough guy. I mean, you could get fined for not sacrificing a bunt, for embarrassing the club by walking off the field with 2 outs, for not tagging up in a situation. There was a lot of things that you could get fined for.
Right.
And Kranepool was the enforcer. He was the guy that called the meeting to order. He usually had 2 or 3 guys that were on the hot seat. I've been there before, and he had a lot of respect. Eddie was respected by everybody in the clubhouse. And he was a perfect guy.
Now, those kangaroo courts are for mental errors, not physical errors. Am I correct?
They were for everything from wearing a tacky outfit on the road to not being on the bench where you're supposed to be, for making the bus wait at the hotel because you weren't down in time. And there were some physical things on the field that there were, physical errors happen, but.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not you're going to make.
I remember walking off the field with 2 outs, and I got $100 fine for that.
Okay. Great story about Mr. Kranepool. I had Ed on as a guest on the Lenny Randall show, but about a month ago, and. He was very revealing, loved the memory of those days. And that's the one thing you must have more, but that's something you and Eddie have in common, Skip. You really loved what you did. And
he loved playing baseball. He also loved being in New York. That's a special uniform to wear New York across your chest. And I believe he came from New York originally as a boy. He was just a guy that loved getting dressed. He was always the first guy at the ballpark. He always had an entourage with him. He was always introducing.
Oh, he was. He was from the Bronx.
Monroe High School.
James Monroe, right? Where Hank Greenberg went there, if I'm not mistaken. So he had big shoes to fill from that standpoint. And
in the Mets clubhouse, there was a kind of 5 lockers that were at the head of the class. Everybody else kind of sat around the sides, but the 5 lockers at the head of the class was Harrelson and Seaver and Grody, Kranepool. And you don't walk by those lockers. You walk by those lockers carefully and properly dressed. Those were the guys who were going to make sure that the traditions were maintained in the clubhouse for sure.
Nice memories of that. Ironically, Buddy Harrelson is struggling with early stages of Alzheimer's disease, and we're all getting older.
I just heard that about Buddy. I played in a golf tournament in Venice, Florida. Excuse me. I just heard that Buddy wasn't feeling well. I love Buddy Harrelson. Buddy Harrelson and I were friends. I'd been to his house. He's been to mine. He was a great teammate. Buddy Harrelson. When I used to pitch, he used to come to the mound and say, let me have this ball. He'd be playing in the infield, and I don't know how to get the ball to him, but I knew there was at least one guy in the infield that wanted it, and that was very important to me. Wayne Garrett was the same way. Let me have the ball. I can, if you get into trouble, I'll take it. That kind of a ball player. Real great guy.
Good.
And we
How
are
about
all
Felix Mion? Pardon me?
I said we are all getting older, unfortunately.
Oh, no question. Robert Cole, an original Met fan like myself and Marty. Anything you want to ask Skip?
How old was Eddie when he was in the pinch hitting role, Skip?
You know, Eddie always looked a little bit older than his years. I don't really know. I think he was mid-30s at the time. I'd have to look him up. He was the elder statesman, clearly. He was the guy we all look for leadership. And he would decide, things like, whether we were going to have a big spread or music or, whatever it was going to be after the game. I mean, he was clearly one of our standout leaders in the clubhouse. I don't remember his exact age.
Yeah. He was 17 when he first came up, the first time.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So, the year they signed him out of high school, they gave him a few games at the end of the year.
That's right. And the next year he had a run-in, and it really wasn't a run-in. It was a miscommunication with Duke Snider, and he explained that in detail on the Lenny Randall corner with on the network. Casey had told him that he didn't want him getting pull-itis, and he wanted him in batting practice to hit to the opposite field. And he said, I'll be watching you from center field, from the clubhouse. And if you pulled the ball, I'm going to send you to Buffalo. Something to that effect. They're having batting practice, and Snider says to him, hey, kid, you have to get that inside pitch and pull it. Short right field, short left field, but short right field. And Snider's talking to him. Casey's watching him from center. At this time, he's 18 years old.
Right.
And he's a New Yorker, and his first response was, you ain't doing so good yourself, to Snider. But, don't tell me what to do. And the press was right there. This is batting practice and what have you. But the full story was that he was trying to please Casey. Yeah. And was scared to death of being shipped to Buffalo. It was a very self-depreciating story, but yet deprecating story. But he told it in a very nice way. He didn't mean to be disrespectful to Snider. And there are stories that Snider wasn't that great a Met teammate. This is certainly before your time, Skip. But one can Google that. I don't have anything. There was one player that was very down on him, but that aside, it was Duke Snider, and the kid was 18 years old, Kranepool. So you can see where that got messed up. And aside that, Marty, anything to ask Skip Lockwood that you would have asked last week? Had you thought about it?
No, I think we covered pretty much what we wanted to talk about last week. I think we should get into the Rusty Staub thing because, God, this guy was a star in so many different teams, and he was such a favorite in New York.
And in Montreal, this guy was a hero.
Oh, yeah.
In both cities, he could have run for mayor and won.
Yeah.
Skip.
Unbelievable. And all the charity work he did in New York for the widows of the police and firemen. Just what a guy. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rusty was a guy that carried himself a certain way. He was an elegant, confident guy. The way he dressed, the way he went about his business. There was locker room rituals every day. You know, the guys came in and get dressed and get their stuff together, go out to the ballpark, go out to the infield and you know, take ground balls and field. Rusty was a guy that was very methodical, very clearly had an agenda when he was going through his warm-ups. You know, wore his socks high, wore the uniform with pride. I remember Rusty being very purposeful about everything he did, and that's what he expected from everybody. He was prepared. He knew what he was doing. He was always a guy that was thinking ahead, you know, an inning and a half. He always knew who was coming up. He was the guy that would come to me when I was pitching and say, don't forget, you know, this guy is a pull hitter and you've got to, you know, get him away out. And maybe I remembered that and maybe I didn't. I'm not sure. But he was always a guy that was thinking ahead. I saw him as a real team leader. The Grand Rouge, we all respected him an awful lot.
Yep. Nice words. Nice words. Robert, anything about Rusty that you remember as a fan?
Well, actually, I remember, you know, him starting with the Houston Colt 45s, struggling with the Houston Colt 45s, but everybody was predicting great things for him. And then getting traded to Montreal, he really flourished. And like you say, I mean, he was the darling. He could have been elected president in Montreal, I think. I mean, they just loved him there. And that trade really upset the fan base in Montreal.
Yeah,
I never saw him turn down an autograph. He was one of the guys. I didn't know about autographs. I came from Milwaukee. Maybe I signed some autographs in Milwaukee, but it wasn't like New York. And I never saw Rusty walk away from a kid or walk away from somebody that was waving a hat in front of him. He was signed. Even after he came in from batting practice, everybody was in changing, trying to get ready for the game. Rusty was staying signed. The kids hanging on the dugout. Clearly, this was his space, and he, you know, wants to get ready for the game. But he was there taking care of his fans. He was such a role model. I just remember him being such a clearly elegant man. Great.
You're right. I remember him walking in from the outfield during practice, signing the whole way from the outfield to the dugout as kids would walk alongside, and he'd just keep signing. I remember that very clearly.
Yeah. This is in Port St. Lucie.
Well, I'm talking about in Shea Stadium.
No, Shea Stadium is what I remember. Yeah.
Oh,
yes,
walking out the exit, you mean? With
no,
the kids.
just like if he was out shagging flies in the outfield, you know, in batting practice before the game would start, he would start coming in. He would start coming into the dugout, and kids would go running to the front rail, and he'd just walk along.
Okay, I got you.
He'd just walk along signing the whole way.
Yeah, with a big smile on his face. He was also a chef, if I'm not mistaken. Owned restaurants and
yes,
an accomplished chef, from what I understand.
Yeah.
So
Eddie Kranepool owned a restaurant for a while too. Him and
really?
Ron Swoboda. Yeah, him and Ron Swoboda had a place called the Dugout in Amityville, New York, and went there several times. And him and Ron Swoboda would always be there during the off season, greeting folks and slapping them on the back and stuff.
Yeah, we've had Rocky on these airwaves. He's as gregarious as ever, and he too, like yourself, Skip, transcends baseball. You could have a conversation with him about life, and that's important. Good time, before I ask you about Joe Torre, to announce that, Skip, you've agreed to do a podcast on this network.
Oh, very good.
Yes, I have. Ralph and I talked about this last week. I'm happy to do it. I'm excited about talking about not only my career and about the Mets, but digging a little deeper and talking about what makes what happens out on the field. What do the players talk about when they're dugout? What happens when players aren't playing well? What do they say before the game? I'm very interested in sharing some experiences about, a deeper look into baseball, baseball in slow motion, if you will.
Nice. Sounds
Skip,
great.
I'm going to ask you a question that I've asked other people. Is life a microcosm of baseball, or is baseball a microcosm of life?
There's parts of baseball, I think, that are very close to what your dreams are. I think when a young boy dreams about what they're going to do for the rest of their life, I think they dream in baseball language. They dream in sports language. They think of themselves in a uniform and a hat and a glove, in this dirty field someplace, and growing up and being a Met, being a Yankee, coming to the big leagues and taking a swing for the fences. I think it plays a big place in a young boy's and young girl's imagination. And is it a slice of life? I think it's more than what you think. It may go away and evaporate into college and into adulthood, but you're still very captive about what you think and how you think it. It's important to have those dreams. Even at my age, 71, I have dreams, and you work those dreams out. And I think for me growing up and having an imagination, being able to picture your dreams and picture yourself in uniform, yeah, I think baseball is part of our culture, and is certainly a part of our microcosm.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just want to tell you that I'm absolutely thrilled to have you on the network, Skip. That's all I can tell you. It's going to be fun, and I think everybody that does this has fun. We all have in common that we have strong opinions, and none of us are opinionated, and that makes for a good combination, and you're an additive. Now, would you tell me a little bit about what it's like to play for Joe Torre?
Yes, I will. Joe was a local boy himself, New York. Great. He was one of the few player coaches in baseball that I can remember. I think Frank Robinson might have been one with California, but Joe Torre was a guy that knew the game. He was a third baseman. He was a catcher. He was smart. Joe Torre had 25 deals going. There was 25 players. He would know each one individually. He would know what your hot button was. He would know if you were having a bad day, know the names of your family members. He would spend the entire batting practice roaming the outfield with a fungal bat, hitting the balls back in that got out to him, talking with players out in the outfield before the game started. And he would intimately know what was going on and how you were thinking and what was the best situation for you. Very, very deep thinking manager. I think, way beyond his times. Joe and I were very close. He gave me the ball in the 8th or 9th inning, and that I really respected the chance that he gave me to pitch. And if somebody doesn't give you the ball, you can't get a save. They have to trust you enough to give you the ball. The way I usually started the inning was I would walk the first guy. So, and Joe would come to me the next day and said, would you do me a favor and get the first guy out anyway? Let me relax a little bit.
Just
so
once.
Just once. Go out and get the first guy out for a change, will you? You're giving me a heart attack. Funny thing that he used to do for me, if I can just finish the quick story, is he would put a pair of designer underwear in my, in a little plastic bag in my locker. And he was cute. He'd say, I don't know about you, but he said, I could use a new pair of these after you get done pitching. So that's a little joke that we had.
My God, that sounds like so much fun. Because everybody thinks a guy comes out to the mound and he's serious all the time, and you got to throw him a screwball here. He goes beyond that. It comes down to relaxing a guy. Did he come out and talk to you and put you in a better frame of mind, and how did he do it?
I pitched intensely, and I was very driven, focused, tense. Every muscle would tighten when I pitched sometimes, and I didn't know how to relax. And he was a guy that didn't come out and tell you a joke or tell you a story, or we weren't going over hitters. When he would come out to the mound, he would say something. He wanted to get his point across, and then when he'd leave the mound, he'd turn around and say, "Oh, by the way, throw strikes to this guy, will you?" He was a guy that he knew everybody so well. He knew how to push the right buttons. He was a guy that knew how to get you where you needed to be. That's why he was such a great manager.
Now, how would that type of managing go in today's game? With analytics, with you've got to be in there because you hit X number against this guy, and that the guy takes no consideration into how your life is going. So has the game changed? Is that the main way the game has changed? It's just become numbers, and you go up there, and is there any of that personal stuff left in baseball?
Oh yeah, no, I think there is. I think baseball is still played the same way after the national anthem. There's 9 guys out in the field trying to do their best. Joe Torre knew his players, and I think I was hoping he would become the commissioner of baseball. I know he's a bigwig in the front office with Major League Baseball. I really was hoping he would become the commissioner. I thought he would be a wonderful commissioner. I sent him a letter about that. Joe knows the game as well as anybody. He knows the analytics of the game. But I think it's getting the most out of your players, trying to be the conductor, virtuoso orchestra is very difficult. Everybody wants to take the lead. Not everybody can, have the ball at the same time. Somebody's got to play defense. Joe knew that, and he knew how to get that on display. I think he'd be a great manager today. I think he'd be a great commissioner if he ever wanted to do it.
Yeah, well, you got to get the owners to agree too, and I think they're into a more corporate type person, if you would.
Yeah. How'd Joe get along with the media?
How did Joe Torre?
Yeah, because when he got that Yankee job, the media, he got blasted. I don't know if you remember what the headlines were, but of it was not good. Clueless Joe, maybe just because he, didn't have a great winning record with the Mets, but, how did he get along with the media when you were there?
Joe always took the blame and gave the credit. As far as I know, the problems that the Mets ever had, Joe would take the blame for those things, and he would give credit for everything that's good that happened to the players on the field. He was a deflector. He would take the media, to my knowledge, keep them off your back. You'd never hear him talking about you behind your back. There's always something that he would say positive about you. I think Joe was great with the media. I don't remember him ever having a problem with the media myself, at least when I was there.
Good.
Well, Robert.
Yes, sir.
What would you like to ask? Skip, do you mind if we talk a little current Mets stuff? It's Robert is going down to Port St. Lucie tomorrow, and Marty and I have been talking all week. We think the current Mets are getting it together. I don't know how closely you follow today's game, but what's going on in your head about the Mets currently, Skip?
I thought they had a great pitching staff. I saw them a couple times in the World Series, and I just thought that they had one of the great pitching staffs of all times. That young man that they call Thor, I think he's coming back from injury this year. Big, rangy, right-handed guy. I thought he had great stuff.
Yeah, Syndergaard.
Yeah, Syndergaard. I thought they had great mechanics. The way they attack the hitters. The game today has changed a little bit. They have a tendency to pitch away from the strike zone, strikes, trying to get you to chase pitches in the dirt, and swing at balls out of the strike zone. I thought the Mets did a good job at attacking the strike zone as a pitching staff, better than any other pitching staff I saw. I'm just watching on TV, guys. I don't go to those games anymore that much, but I thought the pitching staff was first rate. I thought they went after the hitter. They didn't throw a changeup when they should have been throwing a fastball. No changeups in a row. I thought they really attacked the strike zone when I was watching the pitch. If you have a good pitching staff, you're going to do okay in today's game for sure.
With that in mind, they seem to be, and I'm knocking on wood as I say it, a little healthy. Robert, first your impression of what's going on with pitching in spring training up till now.
Well, what I'd like to ask Skip is, the Mets are talking about not having a dedicated closer this year, but using guys in different positions, in certain situations, high leverage situations, things like that. What's your feeling about that?
Well, if you asked me that a couple of years ago, I would have said nonsense, that you've got to have a closer. Somebody gets up in the morning and has their cereal and gets ready by noontime to come to the ballpark, and when they get to the ballpark, there's psychological advantages of knowing that you're going to be the guy that throws the pitch that wins the game. They did that for a bunch of years, and that was important. I always felt like the closer had a unique role and a prideful, unique role in the team. Today's game has changed. There's 2 or 3 times during the game when the game is on the line. Might be the 7th inning, it might be the 8th inning. Somebody's got to get those guys out, otherwise you're not going to get to the 9th inning. The closer by committee, I've never seen that work. The Red Sox tried it. Atlanta tried it. I never saw that really work with those 2 or 3 guys that would come in circumstantially and pitch. Right-handed to right-hander, lefty to lefty. I always thought there should be a closer. So if they try to do that, if they have 2 or 3 guys that they want to have come in and pitch that way, I don't know whether it's going to work. It certainly would be my vote that somebody comes in and wants to be the guy that closes the game, and soon they will rise above the other ones because they get the job done and they'll get the ball in the 8th and 9th inning, or at least in the 9th inning. So I'd be interested to see how that works.
Yeah, because Mickey Callaway and Francona last year in Cleveland used Andrew Miller that way an awful lot. I mean, he'd come in the 6th inning, the 7th inning, 8th and 9th innings, and I think that's kind of his idea coming over to the Mets this year.
He's a good pitcher.
I think if Familia showed that he could get the outs, he'd force the situation because he's closed before successfully. And, there are some people who can pitch those last 3 outs. Skip, tell us about what that's all about, the last 3 outs, as opposed to 7th, 8th, 6th, 7th, 8th.
The important thing about being a closer is it doesn't happen at 8:30 at night. It happens that being a closer starts in the morning. It starts when you get up. It's every single motion you take, what you think about, that close situation where you're in the game and the runs on bases and you have to come away with a save, that goes over and over in your mind probably 500,000 times during the day. You see it. You can see it happening in front of your face. In the morning, when you're eating your lunch, in the afternoon, when you're trying to get to the ballpark, it's not just a one situation where a guy happens to go out on the field and be the closer. It's something he's grown to love. It's a situation that he's experienced over and over again. The closer goes in the game one game at a time, but I guarantee you, before that ever happened, he's pictured that in his mind. He's thrown that pitch thousands of times. He expects to save the game. He expects to throw strikes. He recognizes what the catcher's going to do with it. He wants the umpire to say strike 3. He's pictured this all before. This is played out.
Visualization.
He's played this movie before he ever gets there. So what it's like is it's like playing of a movie of you being successful over and over again. Groundhog Day, but you win.
You also have to be able to block out inevitable failures. Few and far between, hopefully, but they still hurt. How do you do that the next day?
Well, there's always failures. You're always going to lose a game every now and then, and you're going to be the one responsible. If your wins and your successes are big enough, they take over the space in your mind where the failures sometimes can creep in the sides. But if the wins are strong enough and you have confidence enough, the winning scenario, the picture in your mind is a winner. As a closer, will push out, will crowd out the failures. They're just things that happen.
You sound like you'd have made a great coach. Did you consider going into coaching when your career was over?
My career, I had 18 years in hotel rooms and on buses, and we never flew charters or any of that stuff a lot of the time. So I had a long career, and I was ready to do something else. I had an offer to do some coaching. I opted to go to school instead of coaching. Looking back, I kind of wish I had stayed in, but I didn't. I got out. And I chose a different path. I don't know whether I would have been a good coach. You have to have patience to be a coach. And I was If anybody knows me, I was never a very patient person. Maybe I would have grown into it.
Yeah, I bet you would have, because your words are so easy to listen to and really right on. Marty, New York Mets, 2018 spring training. You and I follow it fairly closely.
Yep.
What's your impressions?
Well, I'm a little concerned about a few things. We have 4 starters that, in the field that are over 30. You got Fraser, you got Gonzo, you got Bruce,
maybe,
and
Cabrera.
Yes.
That's a lot of guys. It's a lot of guys over 30. So, I'm just hoping that won't be a problem or lead to, more injuries down the line. I like what I see. The other day he started what I think is going to be the starting lineup on opening day. And one thing I did notice is that he had Plawecki behind the plate.
That was nice to see that he had a great spring, and
he's been doing
really
excellent.
Deserves
he's been doing
to
really
be the
well.
starter, and let him take it away from him now. It's at the point he's 2 or 3 years up, and I think it's terrific.
As far as the pitching, Syndergaard looks like he's ready to go right away. DeGrom just had his first. He was, slow coming in because his wife had a baby, and he got a late start. He's only been in 1 game so far. Harvey, seen some good, some not so good. He pitched against the Yankees a few days ago, and he didn't pitch badly, but the Yankees didn't play a lot of their regulars. Of the regulars that they did play, Gardner, Stanton, and Judge, they all hit him hard. So, that remains to be seen how he's going to work out. And, the other guys still have a lot to prove. Nats has a lot to prove. Vargas, he'll give you innings, but how good they're going to be, who knows? And we have to see what is done with guys like Wheeler and Lugo. We don't know. They're going to be in the bullpen.
Marty, if Harvey is coming back to form, he, DeGrom, and Thor, wow. And he's been pain-free. Remember how horrible he was last year, and his horrific injuries that he was coming back from. It wasn't just his arm, it was his neck, all
right.
that stuff. I'm really feeling good about the pitching staff starting, but again, bullpen has been shaky at best.
I agree.
Yeah. Robert,
do they play in their division? They start in their division. Do you know, Marty? Do they start in the division, or are they out of the division to start with?
Opening day? I think they open with the Cardinals.
I think St. Louis is in, and then Philadelphia, right? And they're at home?
I think so. Yeah.
Philadelphia had a big signing today.
They just signed the pitcher. They got an awful lot of money for this guy. The guy from the Cubs.
Yeah, his name escapes my mind too at the moment, but he got a lot of money, but a lot less money than he was asking. The market seems to have fallen dramatically, and you can't blame anybody but the players for that, the players' union that gave way to what is now a soft cap. And that's something I think Marvin Miller is turning over in his grave. Skip, can you address that?
Yeah, I thought that was a mistake. Marvin Miller was an interesting guy. He was a small man and spoke with a whisper. If you had ever met him, he was not an imposing figure at all. He had a deformity in his right hand and his right arm, so he was an interesting guy, very tough negotiator. Turned down Hall of Fame status, I believe. Didn't want to be part of the Baseball Hall of Fame, although he was offered it. Maybe mistaken.
Oh, is that right? I hadn't heard that.
Interesting, tough guy. He took the players a long way because we didn't know what we had. We thought we were one-year players, and we didn't understand free agency, and we didn't understand the rights we had. I don't think he would have had a soft cap. I think he would have fought for something tougher than that.
Yeah. Tell us about the difference of playing before free agency and playing after free agency.
Yes. I had a Volkswagen Golf car that I drove to Shea Stadium when I got into the league. Little brown stick shift golf car.
Right.
Roll down windows. Yeah. Now I don't know whether Volkswagen makes those kind of cars anymore, but today they come in different kinds of vehicles. It made a difference in how the players approached the game. It gave them confidence and longevity and security and permanence. I never had those things. I had the retirement of one day at a time, and tomorrow you get paid for that game. The next day for the next day. We didn't have anything like job security. We hung together as a team really well, so 25 guys all in the same boat. I think there was a great chemistry in the locker room, but we all worked together to try to make a career out of it.
Does good chemistry produce winning, or does winning produce good chemistry?
The chemistry comes first. I think the chemistry takes leadership. I'm not going to harp on vision and having a leaders, but you have to have them. Somebody has got to be there, knows what it looks like and sounds like. You build that around a base of people that have won World Series before, that have played in critical situations. A lot of the guys don't. They don't know what it means to go out there and pitch for your life, you know, in the World Series like that. And loser goes home kind of series. And you need to have somebody that's been there and done that. That chemistry that comes when a guy can come over and talk to you before the game to help you with that, or just it's a shared vision, if you will, of how this season is going to come out. I think that comes before the winning for sure. Good.
Robert, anything you want to talk about the current Mets? You're going to see him in St. Lucie. What are you expecting of this upcoming year?
Well, last year I saw them lacking a leader. They didn't really have anybody, especially after the Bruce trade and things like that. This year I see guys like Bruce being back, Reyes to mentor some of the young Latin players. Frazier is a really good leader, and I think that Gonzalez, you add him to the mix. Yeah, they're all older, but these are guys that know how to win. They've been there before, and like Skip was just talking about, I mean, this is leadership that the other players who haven't been there yet can look up to, talk to these guys. I remember a couple of weeks ago I said last year, Jay Bruce was always the guy to go over to a player when he had his head down and things like that. And those are important things, and I think the team has that this year. They definitely have talent, but they also have guys that'll step up and lead.
Good. Marty, let's wrap it up by giving your over and under. We did that earlier in spring training, way before the signings, Frazier and Gonzalez, signing Bruce back. If you had to pick a number.
The Vegas number is 80.5. And I'm going to
Does that change even with Harvey coming back?
I don't. Good question. I haven't heard. I don't know if it's changed or not. Probably not. I don't think they can win more than so much depends on the health of these guys. But I'd say about 84. I mean, the Phillies are definitely better. With picking up Arrieta, like we mentioned.
Arrieta, that's the name. Yes.
Yeah, and they got they have a kid who I think kind of came into his own last year, and on the pitching staff, Nola, this kid Nola.
Yeah.
He was impressive last year, and he's only 24. So, I think the Phillies will be better. Not sure about the Braves. We know about the Marlins. But I'd say 84. I don't.
Okay.
Okay.
It's an arbitrary number. How about you, Robert? What do you say?
I'm thinking 86.5 to 87.
Boy, that's I'm an optimist in spring. First week of the season will take care of that. I'll tell you that from past experience. Skip, it isn't always easy as a fan, being a Met fan, but we're lifers. What can I tell you? Welcome to the network. Thank you, Skip, for coming by this show. I wish you all the best on our new endeavor. You're perfectly welcome in this family. And we are an extended family. We all go on each other's shows from time to time. And it's great for me. And coincidentally, you said you were 71, Skip.
I am.
All four of us are 71.
My condolences to all of you.
1946 was a great year. Thank God the war was over. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Be talking to all three of you very shortly. If you're out there and you're listening and enjoy our offerings, please box up some lightly used children's books and take them to the Head Start program in whatever city you live in. Kids need to read. They need to get their noses out of the devices and the computers. They need to develop a passion. They need to be school ready, and books are where it's at. So if you'll do that, I'd appreciate it. Please come back and listen to us again. It's the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. The name of the show is New York Mets Baseball. The hosts are Marty Rose and Robert Cole. And we had Skip Lockwood back for the second week in a row. Wow. Former big league closer, author, and the newest podcaster on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network.
Good night, guys.
Adios, everybody. Thanks, guys. It was great.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye-bye.